Hi, I'm Volunteer Ranger Richard, and I'm a volunteer in Sequoia National Park and have been for the last 7 years. I wanted to share with you my bear encounters. I've had about 85 bear encounters in the last 7 years and learned quite a bit about bears. So I want to share some of that with you today. We have about 600 to 800 bears in Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon. Um, it's hard to get a real precise number, so it's just a real rough estimate. Um, the the main bear that we have is the American black bear. No grizzly bears. The last grizzly bear was killed in 1923 in Horse Meadows in Sequoia National Forest. So even though that's our state flag, we no longer have any grizzly bears in California. Um, the colors range from blonde to cinnamon to brown and different shades in between, and that's about 90% of what we see and what I see in the parks, and then 10% are black. So a small percentage are black, even though we call it the American black bear. So we'll refer to it as a brown colored black bear or a cinnamon colored black bear. As far as the biology, males are about 250 to 350 pounds, so larger than me. Females are 150 to 250 pounds. The territory for the male is about 42 square miles, whereas for the female is about 7 square miles. The speed at which they can run is actually pretty fast. The fastest man in the world is Usain Bolt, as we've seen in the Olympics, and he runs at about 28 miles per hour. The fastest racehorses at the Kentucky Derby are averaging around 37 miles an hour. Bears can run 25 to 35 miles per hour, so they're pretty fast. You're never going to outrun a bear. Another characteristic is that the first thing the mother bear does is teach the babies to climb a tree to escape danger. So they're very adept at climbing trees, including the female. As you can see in the video here, this is a female bear, probably 150, 175 pounds, climbing to the top of this red fir, 150 feet roughly, to go up and communicate something to the babies. And then she's coming down rather quickly, and so the adults and the cubs can climb trees very easily. The mama bears are referred to as a sow. The male bear is referred to as a boar. Their sense of smell is very precise and very acute. They can smell food easily 2 miles away. They can smell an injured deer 20 miles away. They can easily smell what's inside your car, what's inside your ice chest. So you want to take precautions in putting your food in the bear boxes. Utilize the bear boxes, as you can see in the picture that we have in the park. And don't allow the bears to get the food. Hide it, if nothing else, in the car so they can't see it. You don't want to tempt them. If they start getting into our food, they become food conditioned, which is a bad thing. And then it's easy for them to get our food if they are bold enough, and it's high calories, and that's what they like. So keep them from getting our food. If they become bold enough, or if they are able to get some food in some instances, we put a tag in their ear, a colored tag, and eventually, if they become more bold and are a persistent problem, we'll put a collar around their neck, as you can see in the photographs. And if they become too bold and become not necessarily a danger to the public, but frighten the public, then we'll put them down. So we don't like to do that, and so the best thing is for you to store the food properly. Don't leave it out for them to find. Use the bear boxes. If you have food in a backpack, not to worry. I always have food in my backpack. They never go after people, so they're scared of us. They're not aggressive. They're scared of us, and we want to keep them scared of us. So we haze them to keep them scared of us. If they start to approach us or approach our campsite, clang your pans, wave your arms, yell, "Go away, bear," use a whistle, throw pine cones at the adults, at the rump end, never at the head, and never at the babies. The mating process happens around June and July. I happened to see a male and a female walking the trail up to Tharp's Log a couple years ago, and the female was in the front and the male in the back. After they mate, the male goes his way and has nothing to do with the female or the family. So she has a fertilized egg in her, and that stays floating around. It doesn't attach to the wall. It doesn't start growing until around October, November. And then it attaches to the wall only if the conditions are right, and if the female has gotten enough fat, stored enough fat, and has got adequate food for the hibernation process. If that doesn't happen and there's not enough food, or she's weak, the eggs will abort. And this is just a natural process that the body of the bear does. So it implants in the uterus around October, and then babies are born in late January, early February in the den while the mother is hibernating. She wakes up, she cleans them, nurses them, goes back to sleep. Wakes up, nurses them, goes back to sleep. And so this is during the hibernation process, February, March, April, and then around May sometime, like now, they are out with the cubs. So I talked to a ranger a couple days ago up in Lodgepole, and today is, what is it, May 9th, and so they are out and about. The males come out earlier. Usually they're out in April. Usually I'm seeing them around the end of April, around Crescent Meadow and Log Meadow. As far as the food sources, 80% is plant material. Leaves, stems, roots, flowers, bulbs. 15, and that's usually in the spring and the summer. And beginning in the summertime, when the insects start coming out, that's 15% of their diet, insects. The bees, the larvae, the termites, the ants, especially the larvae that are underneath the logs or inside the logs. And then 5% of their diet is meat. And that might be a baby fawn that they can run and catch, because they can run, as I said, 25 to 35 miles an hour. Or they'll catch some small animals and eat those, or sometimes they will go after a baby bear, a cub. And I've never seen it, don't want to see it, but it does happen. And that's why the mothers are so protective of their cubs. We used to have feeding pits prior to 1940, feeding the bears for entertainment. People would sit in the bleachers at the giant forest and watch the bears feed on the food that we brought to them, that the rangers brought to them. Those were stopped in 1940. The dumps, free food for the bears, were closed in 1971. The bear boxes became fairly prevalent around the 1960s and 70s for you to store your food in at the trailheads, at the campsites, at the parking areas. So use the bear boxes, preferably to take your food out of the car and use the bear box. We don't want the bears to become food conditioned. And then hazing, we want to scare the bears, we want to keep them away from our food. I will raise my arms, I will yell at the bears, I will use a whistle. Sometimes we may have to call law enforcement, who will use a rubber bullet in a shotgun, 12-gauge shotgun, or a paintball gun. And those are like a spanking, a hard spanking for the bear, to teach them to stay away from people and keep them in the wild. So that's all referred to as hazing. So I hope you've learned something about bears. Where you might see them would be around the meadows in the spring and summer now. Crescent Meadow, Log Meadow, Huckleberry Meadow, Circle Meadow, around Morrill Rock, around the Sherman Tree. You just never know where you're going to see them. But if you do see them, enjoy them from a distance. 50 yards is what we recommend, half a football field, and take your pictures. Don't go chasing a bear to get a selfie like I saw one young teenager doing. You don't want to do that. They are wild animals, and but do enjoy the bears in Sequoia and Kings Canyon. Hope you learned something new and informative, and have a great day in the park when it's open.